Welcome back to Season 5 of the Changing Earth podcast with Sara F. Hathaway, blending survival fiction and fact to bring you entertaining education that will help you dream, survive, and thrive. And now, here's your host, Sara F. Hathaway.
Hello, and welcome back to the Changing Earth podcast. This is episode number 165, Season 5, Episode 2. So, moving along with the Dark Days in Denver adventure. And speaking of Denver, I'm going to be out there in Denver September 22nd and 23rd. It is coming up so fast. I'm actually leaving in just a couple days from when this podcast airs. So super excited to be out in Denver. I have been having a couple of hiccups with my book. So hopefully I'm going to have that brand new book there. You just got to do what you got to do. So it doesn't matter that I got my order in a long time ago. Anyhow, enough of that. The Self-Reliance and Simple Life Experience in Denver, Colorado, happening the 22nd, 23rd. I'm going to be out there signing books and just having a blast. I had a blast when I was out in Mesquite, and I just can't wait to be there again. I'm so honored to be a guest on the survival panel. So thank you, Kiki. Thanks for everything you do, and I can't wait to see you there. So got lots of friends to visit in Denver, and it's just going to be a blast. I also want to thank my Patreon members. Thank you so much for your contributions to the show, to keep the show rolling so we can keep being entertained and educated about all these great programs. I'm putting together just a spectacular season this season. I'm really, really excited about it. So definitely can't wait to continue sharing that with you. And I got an awesome interview today with Ben Brenham. Always an honor to have him on the show. Can't tell you how much I appreciate learning from him. And when I finally get the chance to do it in person, that will be even better. So we got Ben on the show today, and we're talking about standing up to superiors, whether that's in a civilian setting or a military setting, and just kind of some tactful ways to do that. Last week on the Changing Earth podcast, we started Dark Days in Denver. Erica and her family were flown into this base in Colorado. Today, we figure out, what their living conditions, their living accommodations are going to be for the time being, and how all that's going to work. So I don't want to give too much away ahead of time. So without any further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right into the Dark Days in Denver adventure. Chapter 2. Here, put these on, Bennett commanded, handing them mercenary army uniforms. She held out the uniform like a dirty dish rag. Why? Erica challenged his advice. This is a scoop, Erica. You are part of the Merc forces. You're going undercover. The homesteaders that live here have been on their own since the quake. They support the mercenary and militia efforts and cover up the base. They didn't want government assistance and never received it. The homesteaders like having the protection of the Merc forces, but don't want to draw attention. You'll need to play the role if you want to mingle here, Bennett explained. I have to pretend to be someone else? Erica asked for clarification, watching Dex and Star roll their eyes. The feds are hunting you, Short Stack. How long do you want to live? He asked, towering above her. Really? You're all giddy about this? A new nickname even? Whose command are we under? She inquired, already knowing the answer. Mine, of course, Bennett beamed with pride. Where's Lieutenant Colonel Vergis? Erica wondered, looking around. He's helping get refugees out of the West, Bennett replied. Speaking of, Erica commented, putting on the new fatigues, what about Greg and Penny? I'm taking care of that when we're done here. Your name, Miss Erica Moore, is Karen Case here, he told her sternly so she would remember. Karen Case? That's the best you could come up with, Erica teased. Don't forget, your name is known, but if you keep your hat on and your head down, hopefully your face won't be. It's still a risk, so don't do anything stupid, he warned. Who, me? Do something stupid? She teased. Come on, First Sergeant. You know me better than that. He eyeballed her carefully, obviously not amused. What about us? Dexter wondered. You better not do anything stupid either, Bennett warned, chuckling at his joke. No, sir, Dexter corrected, laughing. What are our names? You're Justin, Vince is Eddie, Star's Jenny, And Daniel is Danny, Bennett replied. How come I don't get a fake name, Daniel protested. Because that will be easier to remember, Bennett told him. Just in case, Dexter asked. Real cute, sir. What? I used to have a friend with that name, Bennett replied, clasping the young man on the shoulder. Now, Johnny, you know the down low rules. You go with Jonathan or Corporal Johnson, Bennett directed the young man. Yes, sir, Johnny replied. He was still not quite himself. He couldn't get the picture of his father, General McClintock, rotting away in a federal prison out of his head. Kay and Earl, you should use the alias last name. Everyone else will be fine. Now head over to the gate. They have tents ready for your family, he directed. Yes, sir, Erica replied, giving him a crappy salute. She knew it drove him nuts, and got the scolding look from him that she expected she would. He turned and left in a puff, leaving them standing in the dirt by the helicopters. They headed off towards the tents dotting the valley. Erica was astounded looking out at the maze of white tents and the sea of green. Reminds me of the Vegas camp in the early days. Minus the green, of course, Nancy commented to Erica. On the road again, Grandma, Dexter said charmingly, coming up to grab her arm. At least I'm with my family, she commented, not looking forward to the accommodations. Erica looked at her, impressed that her short gray hair still looked perfectly styled, despite all they just went through. You can say that again, Kay commented, approaching them. So many people. Where will they all go? They're part of the resistance now, Erica said coolly. She put her arm around her mother-in-law. Her shoulders were slumped a little and the stress of the recent events weighed heavily on her mind. Her face could still produce a beautiful smile, but rarely did it happen anymore. If they want to be, Earl replied, holding Kay's hand. He was distraught over his son and daughter-in-law's constant involvement with the resistance fighting. Face it, Dad. The feds will have to eliminate them. It's the only way to maintain order now, Vince interjected. Assumptions can be dangerous, Vince. I mean, Eddie, Earl corrected himself. Do you think they would ever be accepted again? Vince asked him honestly. Can't we just wait and see what happens? Starr interrupted, stopping the argument. There'll be a lot more people in a few days, and we need to be ready to help. How did you like the helicopter ride, Megan? Kay asked, trying to include the young lady in the conversation. Her dirty blonde hair needed a wash, and her brown eyes showed the deep pain she bore from watching her family gunned down in front of her. Did you guys see that huge crack by New Dove? Dexter asked excitedly. That was crazy, Erica agreed. As they approached the tents for military personnel, a familiar face approached. I knew I'd find you here eventually, Kyle Bravowski announced. Kyle! I was so worried about you and Cassidy, Erica exclaimed, hugging the man. After the bombing in Albuquerque, I wasn't sure if you made it. We did. I heard that y'all took Vegas, but they bombed it heavily. Word was that the lone survivor survived again, though, Kyle explained. His long wavy hair was loose under his cowboy hat, and with only his vest on, his muscles looked huge sticking out the sides. Is Cassidy here? Erica wondered, looking around. No, she's out on a scouting mission for a couple of weeks, he replied. Noticing her family curiously watching the conversation, Erica remembered her manners. Kyle, I would like to introduce my family, Erica told him, lowering her voice so she wouldn't be overheard. You know Vince and Dexter, or Eddie and Justin, as they're known here. Oh, and I'm Karen. Anyway, this is my mom, Nancy, my daughter Star, or Jenny here, my youngest son, Daniel or Danny, my in-laws, Earl and Kay, and their adopted daughter, Megan. That guy over there, she said, pointing to Johnny, is Jonathan Johnson. Erica figured there would be time later to explain who he really was. Nice to meet you all. I'm Kyle Bravowski, he replied. I met Karen and Eddie in Dallas and became, he paused looking for the words, their driver, I guess. Do you guys need help getting checked in? A lady questioned, watching them converse. I guess so, Earl replied. I'm Earl Case. I know who you are, the woman interrupted. Well, actually, I know who they are, she explained, pointing at Vince and Erica. And if you're with them, then I know where you need to go. Earl seemed deflated and replied shortly, well then I guess all you need to know is we're with them. I'm sorry, sir, I didn't mean to be rude. I'm just really busy and I have orders to check them in, the lady explained. No offense taken, do what you gotta do, Earl replied. Erica could tell from his demeanor that he was offended. She laughed at the woman's arrogance. Earl was a doctor, and in Erica's mind, the service he could provide to these people was far greater than anything she could do. Staff Sergeant Case, the woman asked Erica to catch her attention. Erica just stared at the ground. Staff Sergeant Karen Case, she repeated. Oh, me? I'm a staff sergeant? Erica wondered. That's what your uniform says, the lady confirmed. Come on, I'll show your family to their tents. Lead on, Erica commented. They followed the woman down the row of tents and then down another and another. They greeted strangers along the way. Here they are, the woman announced, reaching the tents. 2 tents? Erica wondered. Yes, just 2. It's all we could spare, the woman explained, hustling off to take care of something else. How do you want to split up? Vince wondered. Nancy and Johnny can stay with us. Then it's 5 in each tent, Kay suggested. That's fine with me, Nancy replied. Johnny and I can be roomies, she teased. I'd love to share my abode with a cougar like yourself, Johnny teased back flirtatiously. Let's get settled in and grab some chow, Erica suggested, disgusted by their banter. Sounds good. I can't wait to put this bag down, Daniel moaned, shifting the weight of his pack on his back. Dinner was a carefully doled out portion of canned meat and veggies. The vegetable medley was soft but palatable. There was fresh lettuce and spring greens on the side. During the meal, another quake rumbled the ground beneath them, but they were becoming a part of life. The minor tremors hardly made anyone skip a beat. I'm going to volunteer at the little school they have going. The woman running it looked very overwhelmed, Kay commented. You know where I'll be, Earl added. Never a shortage of work for doctors, he scowled. Always too many patients and never enough supplies. At least dinner's not rat, Erica commented cheerfully, scraping off the last bits of food from her plate. She was tired of his endless moaning, but he had not been surviving on the edge for as long as Vince and Erica had. Shoving her chair back, she headed to go clean her dish. The group sat in an awkward silence until Nancy said, Geez, what's her problem? They chuckled, releasing the tension. She's just concerned about Greg and Penny. Plus, I don't think she's very hip on the idea of living someone else's life, Vince interjected. I'm with her on that one, Star added. Erica never returned to the table. Vince found her outside talking with Kyle and a small group of young adults. Their voices were hushed and the conversation ended as Vince joined them. You okay, baby? Vince wondered. Yeah, I just need a break from the negative energy, she commented quietly. Hey, Karen, I'll catch up with you later, Kyle told her. See you later, Erica replied, watching Star come out the door of the mess hall with Kay and Earl. He's just so... Erica commented about Vince's father as they walked up. Nancy came out of the door with the rest of the family. You guys ready? Kay asked. It's going to be an early morning, Earl added. Yep, Erica agreed, letting them walk on ahead with Vince. Erica dragged her feet so she could walk behind the family alone. Dexter saw her unhappy body language and joined her. He didn't ask what was wrong. He just walked along with her to provide companionship. They walked quietly amongst the trees as they neared the river they needed to cross to get back to their tent. It was a lovely setting with lush pines, aspens, and ferns dotting the riverbank. They walked across the bridge, listening to the babbling water. It's beautiful here, Erica commented, taking a deep breath. It is. It reminds me of that river we used to go to when I was little, before the quake, Dex mused. You remember that? Erica wondered. They hadn't talked about that in years. Sort of. We used to pick ferns like that, he said, pointing to a plant. Didn't we? Yeah, fiddlehead ferns. I used to bread them and fry them, Erica replied, enjoying the special memory. As they neared the main military building, they heard a commotion in the yard. Put him in the brig, Lieutenant General Merkley shouted. A crowd was gathered around and Erica fought to get a glimpse of the man he was talking to. Don't do this, sir, the man on the ground shouted back. Erica recognized the voice. No, it couldn't be, Erica thought, craning her neck to see. Get him out of here, Merkley commanded to the surrounding soldiers. The man was brought to his feet. His hands and feet were bound together, but Erica knew his frame. It was Patrick Bennett. She couldn't believe it. She stared in disbelief. Was that First Sergeant Bennett? Dexter asked her, not trusting his eyes. I think so, Erica commented. She saw Kyle standing in front of the crowd as it parted. Kyle, Erica shouted, gaining his attention. He trotted over to her. What happened? She wondered. I don't know, he said honestly, but Bennett socked Lieutenant General Merkley right in the face. What? Dexter exclaimed. He couldn't believe a man like Bennett, who was so focused on following the rules, could ever strike a superior. Did you say that Bennett socked Merkley? Johnny asked, joining them with Star. Saw it with my own 2 eyes, Kyle admitted. There was another small tremor underfoot as they stood in awe of Bennett's actions. Do me a favor, Erica looked to Kyle. Sure, he replied. Can you find out where they're keeping him and let me know? Erica asked. You got it, he said, heading off towards the military building. The family headed towards the tents, speculating on what drove Bennett to do such a thing. There was still no sign of the second helicopter load from Nevada. Mom, what about Carmen? Daniel asked, looking at her with his deep brown eyes. I don't know, buddy, Erica replied honestly. You said that Bennett was going back to get him. We saw him right there. But where are Carmen, Greg, and Penny? Daniel asked again, his voice tinged with anger. That's what he told me, Daniel, Erica explained. Us, baby, that's what he told us, Vince interjected. I never would have left them if the helicopter wasn't going back. I told Greg the helicopter would be back, Dexter added, feeling guilty. Okay, guys, calm down, Erica directed, noticing the rising anger level. We don't know what happened yet. Let's just wait and see how angry we need to get. They smiled at her joke, understanding the reality. Without facts, they couldn't solve the problem. A crazy turn of events as Bennett loses control and takes his frustration out on Lieutenant General Merkley. So I definitely had fun writing this part of it, giving Bennett a little bit of a spin here and just kind of having fun with his characters. That's one thing that I really tried to do in this story was delve more into, just the character creation and what's going on with the different characters in the book. So this is One Side of Bennett. It's coming out today, and here to discuss a more tactful way of presenting a difference of opinion to a superior is Ben Brenham. Ben Brenham is a firearms instructor. Ben has loved shooting since the first time he pulled a trigger at the age of 8. During high school, he volunteered at his local PD, where he learned more about handguns. He joined the Marine Corps Infantry after high school, and he was a reserve for 10 years, with 2 years of active duty and 1 tour in Iraq in 2003. He worked for an armored car company for almost 7 years, mostly in the LA area of California. During all that, he also got a degree in law enforcement and went through 2 different police academies. Being a cop never worked out, but through it all, he's always been training people to fight. He spent all of 2008 in Iraq again as a private contractor defending a base, and there he got to teach and train with the U.S. Army and others. Now he wants to bring that experience and his joy of teaching to others. He loves teaching firearms, and he wants the good people of the world to be able to defend themselves. It's now his mission and his purpose in life, one which I can totally respect because I'm out on pretty much the same mission myself. You can get a hold of Ben at www.modernselfprotection.com. That's www.modernselfprotection.com. So let's go ahead and welcome Ben to the show. Today, I am back with my good friend, Ben Brenham. Ben, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Excited to be here.
I am excited to have you back on my show. As always, I was like, Ben, you got to come back on this season. It's just a must.
Well, great. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. And you're the host that everybody wants to be. You're so organized. You have everything going. And I just need to learn your system. It's worth doing all this free work for you, even if I never have to talk to anybody. But your audience is awesome. I've heard from a couple of them over the last couple seasons, and I'm just really thanks for letting me be a part of this. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'm honored. Totally honored. And I really want to get out and do a shooting class one day. That's like on my list for sure. So we'll see. Maybe one time my next trip to Texas, we can get it synchronized or something like that.
We definitely need to set that up.
Mm-hmm. So today on my podcast, I have a soldier who's a good guy, always following the rules, always doing the right thing. First Sergeant Bennett. And he decides that he's not too happy with the orders that were laid down from the Lieutenant General. So he ends up socking the Lieutenant General in the mouth, which I'm like, yeah, because, that's a move probably I would make, something like that. I'd be screwed forever, but that's how it goes with my life. So I wanted to do a show today and talk about just, when we have these leadership roles, how do we handle when we're having issues with our leaders, and how do we handle that, both today in a military situation, then the survival situation. So a few ways to look at that. So in my opinion, my humble opinion, there is a lot of respect for leadership being lost in today's society on a civilian level. And everybody, I've worked with a lot of teenagers in mediocre jobs. They come in and they're like, oh, well, I should be doing your job. And, so I wanted to just kind of talk about, like, how do you feel about that type of thing? And then I know you have the military background, so you can explain to us a little bit about how that works in a military setting as well.
Well, I think that especially the newer generation, and I like it. I'm getting old now. I'm 40, but you have to earn the respect. And they come in maybe a little too disrespectful, and that's just, I think, more youth than our culture right now. A 17-year-old thinks they can do everything, and they're right until they figure out they can't, right? Until they find something they can't do. And so winning the respect comes over. And that one, I like that about our society right now, and that's bad. Everybody hates the millennials that's older than me, but I kind of like that. You got to earn their respect, and they won't give it to you until you earn it. And there's no title, there's no being over them, there's nothing that you can do except for your actions to earn their respect. And sometimes I get a lot of respect out on the range because they know my background, and they'll walk in trying to take a class from me. I already have a lot of respect, and to me they're like, hey sir, and I'm like, dude, don't worry about it, man. My name's Ben. Come on over here. And then we get mutual respect going when I start talking to them and they start doing stuff. And then other times on the range, I'll walk out on the range and people are like, who the hell are you? And I'm like, nobody. Just don't worry about it. And then I start shooting, and they're like, how do I shoot like that? All of a sudden the respect is there. So you can earn that respect very, very quickly. And that's really what it needs to be. I think that disrespect is more of a problem on that when you get little, I hate to say millennials or 20-year-olds, and now I'm getting old and I'm 40. And I have the same thing at my real job. They'll come in and they're just like, well, I could do your job. Well, can you?
Yeah. Can you?
Yeah. Well, if you teach me, and I had one in particular that she drove me nuts, and she's like, well, if you teach me, I tried to teach you something a couple weeks ago, and you basically told me that's not your job, pound sand. And I said, that's fine. You're unteachable, and we're good with that. And then she's like, no, I could do this, and I can do that. I see what you do, and it's so much easier than what I do. And I'm like, I've done your job. I'll trade you.
Right?
Your job was pretty easy. I don't want to do that job anymore either, but there's some downsides to everything. But it's kind of that earned respect.
Coachability. And then, so you're saying like the coachability of the individual, and then your ability as a leader to earn their respect through your actions. And that's essential.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go. And I have had some really great leaders over the military and in life now that I'm 40, and I've had some really bad leaders. And just the ones that really earn my respect are the ones that can show me why I should respect them and why I should listen to them.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's basically me. I've always been like a little bit riding the edge over that, even though I'm pretty intelligent and I'm willing to follow, but like, show me why I should, right? Like, show me why I should follow you. Why should I respect you? Because people place a lot of emphasis on monetary value. Like, I don't care if you're a janitor or you're the CEO, why should I respect you as an individual?
Yeah. And then that janitor could probably show that CEO how to clean a toilet, when he's got 50 of them to do a day. That CEO could probably get through half of them, or the janitor can get through it in half a day and be on to the next thing. So, yeah, we all, if you're out there, remember that everybody can teach you something, and even your kids can teach you something. And then you got to have that respect, and you got to show them why they need to respect you and why they should. And then that'll go a long ways. In the military, I hated it, and I was the anti-authoritarian in the military. Because just because you have the title sergeant major or colonel or even general, no, you still gotta earn that respect. I will call you sir, and I will salute you because that's the respect that I'm supposed to be given. That's just by title. Everything else you've got to earn, sir. And
right, sir.
Yeah, captains and majors, and especially the captain and the major, where they're kind of a couple years in the military and they're trying to do it. And they're like, no, I'm a captain. You're going to do what I say, Sergeant. And I'm like, well, sir, you know,
I don't think so.
you want to have this conversation now? You know, I've been in 8 years. You've been in 4. You know, hey, I know a little bit more than you do. You know, I've got this background. And so, you know, you have to find that middle ground. And it was hard in the military. And then being where your character was is just, there's impossible situations in the military, and impossible decisions have to be made by someone, somewhere, somehow. And it's, that's the hard one going up the line. And especially if it's more volunteer army than, you know, being drafted or being in. So when I signed as a Marine on the dotted line, you know, I vowed to follow the Constitution and lawful orders, you know, given to me from time to time from my superiors. It's kind of how it's all written. And unless it's immoral or illegal, I'm expected to follow orders no matter what. And that includes getting killed or getting other people killed, which is the really hard one to stand there. And I've had that conversation as a sergeant to a major going, this is going to get people killed, sir. You do realize that, right? And he goes, no, do it my way. And I'm like, we're having a problem here. We're at, you know, and
this isn't just a decision that's going to lose some money or something like that. We're going to lose human life because of this decision.
Yeah, and that's where your character is that's really having the hard problem with it. And you need to be able to break that down and explain it to your leader why. And that's always that's where I was the anti-authority. And I'm just like, I went into this unit and I'm like, well, I have the combat experience. You don't. I'm telling you this is going to get people killed. Freaking listen to me. I'm telling you, sir. You know, and that just doesn't work. And then punching them in the face doesn't work. That's
right.
Even though you want to. I've had many leaders that I want to hit in the face. That doesn't work. So you really got to be able to. And I hate to say this, I've learned a lot since I've been out of the Marine Corps for over 10 years now. God, I got out. Yeah, right at 10 years. It's been a decade. And I actually learned a lot about leadership after I got out of the Marine Corps, too. And you got to be more salesman on stuff like that. You got to be able to explain in intimate detail why this particular decision could get somebody killed and why that won't work. And then what if this and what if that? And then start asking a bunch of questions. Well, what if this happens? So one of the particular decisions that we had was, we're going to rebase a fire team around 5 men because that's how many fit in a vehicle. And then we only need 3 vehicles for 15 guys. And then I'm like, well, I have 3 fire teams of 5 guys and I'm the squad leader. Where do I sit? Because all the spots in the vehicles are taken, you know, and then I get looked at like I have a third eye when you start asking those questions. And the other thing you got to do is not press that. You got to let them have time to go, you know, I didn't think about that. If you push, and that was where I did. I pushed it, and I was like, sir, honestly, where am I going to sit? Should I hang on to the back of one of the vehicles as, you know, it's driving down the road? Or, you know, where is the squad leader sit in this mess? And he'll come up with a stupid answer if you press him, which he did. He came up with, well, somebody will be on working party or sick or something or hurt, so we'll worry about that when it happens. You know, and that's in combat, really? That's a horrible, horrible answer. If anybody gives you that, it's because I backed him into a corner. You know, looking back now that I'm older, I can see that. So your character needs to come back, and if this happens to you, you need to come back and be able to give them time, which seems like an impossible decision too when people's lives are at stake. But you got to break down that leadership role in the military. They teach you, you know, you got a back plan. So where is time on target, or at what time are these people going to die? Without a doubt. Then we have this much time to backtrack that. And I know in the book you don't know because there's nothing going on, but if I get there 5 minutes from now, or if I get there or 10 minutes from now, are more people going to be dead 10 minutes from now than 5 minutes from now? Or if whatever happened already? And so then you can look at that and go, okay, you know, people's lives are at stake, but is 5 minutes either way going to really matter? So now if you can get your backing of your leaders, of course, you can have more assets, and you can get more help, and you can get more things done. If you don't have the assets of your leader and you try to go behind their back movie style, which, you know, it happens in the military, and, you know, then you're stealing assets really, and we call it acquiring with finger quotes in the air over here. You're acquiring assets, and you can only acquire so much with so much friendship and stuff, and you won't get the stuff you need. And I had this real problem when I was in 2008 as a security contractor. And we acquire stuff everywhere. But if I could get more support from my leadership, I wouldn't have to acquire stuff. They would just send it to me, and I'd have all the equipment and stuff that I could ever use if I can get them on board. So that's what you're looking at on leadership stuff, and it is hard when you get the emotions involved, because you come up and you got to figure out. To me, it's always now is how much am I vested in this decision? So what's the difference? Like right now, my company that I work for, Oilfield Services, I love the people I work for. They're making some stupid decisions that I know is coming to roost right now, and they're losing business, and we're starting to cut people and all this other stuff. And I'm like, I told you 5 months ago that this was going to be an issue, and you didn't want to listen to me. Now you're reaping what you sowed. They don't really want to hear I told you so. But, on that, it's not even my job at stake. It's other people's jobs that I know. So what's really, how vested am I in this decision, and how much do I want to fight for that decision 5 months ago? And I just sat down. I had dinner with my boss, and I said, you know what? This is the beginning of the end. I can see this decision before. It's happened before. I'm seeing it again. I was there, and you were there, and this is what I saw. Talk to this guy, and this guy about these decisions that saw the same thing, and maybe they can help you go forward here. But until then, I'm just going to hang on to my job. I mean, you're not going to lay me up. I'll hang on until you lay me off. And she goes, oh, no, I'll never lay you off. Well, I'll be one of the last people you lay off, which is cool. But eventually, the company starts going under, you'll lay me off. So I'll just hang on to my job as long as I can. And so the worst thing that happened for all that decisions is now it's being a pain in my butt. I still got my job.
Well, you probably got more work to do since less people are there.
Yeah, on and off. Yep. And less work sometimes and more work other times. And I'm taking on work that's not mine to cover up. But, so what did that decision really cost me that somebody else made? The worst thing that's going to happen is I'm going to lose my job. I get paid hourly again, so that's nice. If I have more work, I make more money. So, everybody that poo-poos on hourly pay, I've done this I've done both sides, hourly and on salary. Yeah. When I work 60 hours a week or 80 hours a week, I get paid overtime. And when you're on salary, So, I'm just like, well, I'm on overtime for all that extra work that you do me. Big deal. I'm saving up money for Christmas. It's coming. Mm-hmm. So you got to look at what is the decision going to cost? And then is it something that you can live with? So for me, getting laid off again, it's something I can live with. I mean, I like my job. I really enjoy the people I'm working with right now. I'm starting to do new responsibilities, and I'm really, really enjoying. But these bad decisions are coming to roost, and I got promoted for a month and a half just to get demoted because these bad decisions they made, 6 months ago. And I was like, son of a motherless goat, and
you're trying to direct them at the same time. I'm like, hey, that's kind of the writing on the wall.
I'm like, yeah, I knew this was coming. And they're like, oh, how'd you know? I told you 6 months ago. I mean, what do you want to know? So, and they're pretty cool about it. My direct boss is pretty cool about it. Some of the office personnel do not appreciate it. But so, where does that decision lie? In your character, now we're talking about people they know and their deaths. Right. And the word you gave. So for me. Yeah,
that was it too. Like I told them we were coming back and they're my friends. And he's always been a very just devoted to his military lifestyle and doing the job and following the orders. So he wasn't, to have this emotional pull was not something that he's used to because usually he just puts his job ahead of everything else. And so that was kind of his snap moment where he was like, these are people that we've been surviving together for years now. And I just told them all we were coming back, and are they going to come home now? So that was
Yeah. So that one there's family, and I'll do everything for family now. And as you get older, it changes too. I mean, when I was a young Marine, I forsake my family and I went off to war. I really did. I said, well, put my life on hold. I'm sorry, brand new wife. I got to go to war. Right. You're on your own. I hope you can hold down the house. Here's all our financials, and here's, the keys to my truck. And,
I hope to see you again.
Here's my bank account stuff. And, oh yeah, when am I coming home? I don't know. When I left for war in 2003, we didn't know. There was no, 21 days to Baghdad. And then you could start. No, there was no rotation. There was no nothing. You're going to war. And when the job's done, you'll come home. That was it. That's all there is. So it was just kind of, so I, kind of forsake the family and leave my family to that. And new wife, like I said, well, now I have a kid, and I say old wife because now it's 15 years later. I still have the same wife, so I'm lucky there. She puts up with my crap. But yeah, I don't know if I'm willing to do that again. So it's kind of, as you go, you'll change, and your character probably changes as he goes too. You know, at the beginning of his career, he's like military. I trust the leadership above me to make those hard decisions about how many lives and missions need to go first before that. And then you get into it and you're like, well, wait a second. As you're getting old, you know, those people were my family, and I told them I would go back for them. So yeah, it was kind of hard in the Marine Corps. It was always mission over everything else, including your life and the lives of your Marines. And as I got older, that was, as a Marine, when I got older, that was really, really hard for me. And I had some major issues that I got written up for at least once, because I'm like, nope, I'll accomplish the mission, but my Marines are coming back. Well, what about, you know, the honor hell? I'll accomplish the mission and bring my Marines back. There's my honor. Everything else doesn't matter. That's my honor. Accomplish the mission and bring Marines back. That's where I see my honor lying. And other people is die with dignity, and we won't do this or we won't do that. And I've told supervisor, you know, I told a major once, the same major I had the problem with, the hell I won't, sir. I've done it before, and I'll do it again in combat. He looked at me like I had a third eye, and it was just like, yeah, it was about leaving vehicles, and I'd blown up vehicles when we wrecked a vehicle. It was on its side. We couldn't do anything with it. There's a tank company maneuvering on my company of Marines. There's nothing we could do. So we took our injured, we blew the vehicle, and we got out of there. That was it. It was either stay there and die or, you know, bye-bye vehicle.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
So, yeah, I tried to explain that to him, and he just goes, no, I'm telling you right now, you will never lose a vehicle again. And I'm like, the hell I won't, sir. I'll accomplish the mission and bring back my Marines. The vehicle is something I use to accomplish my mission and protect my Marines. It's not, it doesn't mean anything to me. I understand that there's comm gear in there that's really, you know, it's something. But but that order was coming down from almost headquarters Marine Corps and from up at almost presidential level, because when we left a vehicle, there was no way to destroy all the armor on it. And the enemy was taking the armor and armament and starting to use it against us. So it was a different, you know, I look back and it's a little different decision, and I totally disagreed with him. And I went, you know, when I'm the commander on the ground, I get to make the decision.
Right on the ground. And I would rather bring my guys home than worry about armor any day.
Yeah. So I'll worry about one problem. And for me, one problem at a time. Break it down. That's the way I do for shooting and everything. And I've found even over the last 20 years that everything that happens on the individual side of tactics translates all the way up to the core level of fighting, which the core is like 3 divisions. So all of that kind of transfers over all of the little techniques and everything we talked about, you learning jiu-jitsu and playing that game of chess now on the ground. Well, that game of chess where you talked about feinting, going one way and then being able to go the other way because you don't have enough strength, you're a smaller person when you're fighting a bigger person, just to go straight for it. Yeah, that works, but that works on the battalion and the regiment level. When you go, okay, I've got a company of Marines to fight this battalion of people, and a battalion is like 3 companies. Right. Well, there's no way I can just go head on because all I've got is a third of the manpower. Yeah. But if I feint over here and then attack hard this way, I can catch them off guard, and I can make this play work. So to me, it all translates from man on man all the way up to these bigger levels. So it's kind of, those decisions are super hard, and being able to fight your superior on that. I haven't mastered it yet, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, next week I go into a little bit deeper on how everything kind of comes out of it. So I don't want to allude too much there, on this episode, but everybody can wait for that to see kind of how it worked out. So I think, we talked about situations where it would be a justifiable cause. It's basically loss of life is going to be, you're in a survival situation. We're looking at numbers where 6 months, if we had a total grid down situation, national disaster, 6 months, you're looking at 80% loss of population about in there. I mean, we're going to need to save every life we basically can at that point. So, to me, that would seem like a good reason to be like, Mr. Leader or Mrs. Leader, like, we're not going in to die,
Yeah, and it just depends on. Here's the other thing you can do, and I'm not a master at this, but the learning of the why. Why did he make that decision? If you can ask that question. And I had a friend that was a boss of mine, and he's a great friend, and I I constantly asked him, why? I sound like a 2-year-old on a broken record now that I look back on our relationship and stuff. And he let me go, rightfully so, because I kept going, why? And it took me about a year to go back to him and go, okay, dude, I understand.
Right? I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
get it.
I learned this about myself, that I am this why person. I need to know why and how everything works. And so every time I asked you when you told me to do something, it wasn't because I was trying to be a jerk off and
right?
And challenge your authority. It was because I wanted to know why so I could do it better. So if you can get those why questions, this general might have made the decision, and I'm pontificating here, that those assets could save 1,000 lives over here and you have 100 lives back over there. So when he has to make the big picture decision, 1,000 lives is worth more than 100 lives.
Yeah, they only have so much fuel, and the fuel, if you're going to fuel a helicopter.
That's a lot of fuel to go from Denver to.
Into the Nevada desert.
Yeah, that's a lot of fuel. That's a long time for those assets to be away. So all those come into your decisions, and then you're the guy on the ground going, no, it's my friends out there. I have to do everything to save my friends. The heck with everybody else. So everybody looks at a problem from a different angle. And if you can figure that angle out, then maybe you can win and be like, hey, your big problem is the fuel. They've got fuel over there. I can get enough fuel off of the ground to refill those helicopters and come back. And I can probably bring some back with me. I get enough back home, and I can probably get some extra fuel to bring back with you. Well, now the mission looks like more of a worthwhile thing. So if you can figure out the big why behind he's making that decision, now you can figure out how to solve that problem. Because it's this problem, right? If I can get the helicopters to go get my friends, that's a freaking problem, because you're not going to, well, you could, but you're not going to walk from Denver to Arizona. It's a long walk, right?
Right.
And if you have a helicopter,
and only so many assets on the ground, and oil and gasoline is just the big problem in my future world that I've painted, because of you don't have the transportation of it. Basically, you could still pump it. You could still, if you can get it to a refinery, we've lost a lot of refineries and things like that though as well. So it's all about how much can you process here in the States without doing transfer from other countries and stuff like that. So that really creates like the huge problem for their society, I guess, Yeah,
so you have an infrastructure problem. And then, so here's an old thing for everybody out there. Young officers and young Marines will talk about individual tactics all the time. And they will discuss how to, feint left, go right. We should use an envelopment here, blah, blah, blah. The old dogs will start talking about logistics. Because they know all those young guys, all the young lieutenants and sergeants on the ground. They'll take care of tactics. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. You need to be able to supply them with enough logistical support so they can get in and out, so they have enough stuff to do their mission, so they have enough
the resources.
Fuel to drive back and forth. So that becomes, as you get up the ladder, that becomes a huge thing. And you'll start, if you really get into a room with a bunch of military guys, you don't have to see rank or anything. You start hearing them talk about their jobs. The guy that's talking about kicking in the door, he's the young kid. The guy that's talking about moving around his troops, now he's the older guy. The guy that's talking about, well, we're going to go from door to door to door. We need to figure out how to resupply these guys because they're going to run out of ammo, water, and food really, really fast. And then what do we do with all the guys that we capture or kill in there? Because all this is going to become a very, very big logistical nightmare very, very fast. And it's happened throughout history. I mean, we did that. I was on the young guy side in Iraq 03. We ran hey diddle diddle straight up the middle with a Marine battalion, and we outran our logistical force. We had to wait on them because they couldn't get us food. We outran fuel. We're running out of fuel one night. We're, stopping the vehicles and letting them coast so we can get enough fuel to get to the next checkpoint so we can get fuel. We just totally outran our logistical support, and logistics they just got bogged down in the fight and everything else. And so the logistics didn't happen. And it took us 21 days to get to Baghdad, and everybody's like, oh, that was so fast. You have no idea how many times I was out on point and they said, okay, stop. We're going to stop here for the night. And it's like, we got 6 more hours of daylight, man, or we got 4 more hours of night. We can move all night. Yeah, we're out of fuel. So we're going to sit here today, find a spot for us to hold up. So it happened dozens of times. So Marines are just like, we'll get in there. But, it was 600 miles or so, on big vehicles. That takes a lot of fuel. So we ran out. We ran out of everything: food, water, fuel, everything but ammo. We carried enough ammo.
All right. Like I got that covered. We're good.
Uh,
Yeah, just thinking about like some of the old, the old forces, the Roman forces and stuff like that, how much effort, like the moving cities that actually moved with them to supply them what they needed. And so I think it's a great idea to talk about, because if we're in these survival settings, everybody's like, oh, we're going to bug out or whatever. Well, you're going to bug out? Like, how are you going to handle that logistically? Like, where are you going to go to get gasoline? And
yeah, I've got a Chevy 2500 pickup truck, but it's a huge 3/4 ton truck, and I could stack it, and I got a trailer, but I can only put so much water in there. I can only put so much food in there. I can only haul so much fuel. And then on the other side, people don't notice is that, fuel goes bad.
Yeah.
If you just let it sit, eventually it just goes bad. It doesn't stay.
You can't carry it in your car with you, or everybody's going to be like asphyxiated by the time you reach anywhere. You can't carry like 50 gallons of fuel in your car. It's impossible.
Without a sealed container and special stuff. Yeah. So but it's a logistical problem to solve. What are we going to do? And you can't put 50 gallons of fuel on the roof because it weighs about 9 pounds per gallon. And, 50 gallons, you guys will be awful short after you fill up that ladder on the roof.
Hey, I'm good. I'm good with that. I have no problem there.
You're the only one that's like, what? I don't see
I'm like, what? What's the problem?
Yeah, the roof is collapsed half the way with the fuel. Yeah, so you can only carry so much. You can only do so much. Yeah, the bug out stuff is just, what are you going to do? Yeah, it's your book puts out that sad thing, and I've been reading some more about, huge grid down scenarios and stuff, and if the whole power grid across the United States going out, 80% of the population dying off in 6 months to a year. I think 6 months is probably a little bit short, but in a year, if it stays out for a year, I think 80% is probably 80 or 90% is probably the closer number of what will be left.
Medications alone, the amount of medications that Americans are on, to rip that away suddenly would just be like, I mean, look at all the people on all these psycho, drugs that are antidepressants, this, that. I mean, to have that just pulled from you, what does that do to you psychologically?
Well, and you just go the other way too. So I've got my family right straight up. My sister, awesome person. She has problems with epilepsy and seizures. She's on a seizure medication. And every time if they mess with that seizure medication, she'll have some seizures, and she needs to be hospitalized for that. So if she goes straight off of that med, I don't know if she'll survive more than a couple weeks before she has a seizure and more than one seizure and just dies. And then, the other people, what do? We talked about logistics. So if she doesn't live with me anymore, but she used to. What do? I'm carrying around a body pretty much that's just having seizures, and all she can do is sit there, and all she really can do when she has seizures is lay there in the hospital bed and have a couple seizures until they start to go away, and most of it goes away because of the meds they pump in her. Mm-hmm. So, flat out, I love my sister, but I tell her to stock up those meds like crazy. Every time you go for a refill, you get 30 days, buy it every 20 days because they'll let you do that. So all you guys out there that are on some meds, anything, as soon as they will let you refill that prescription, refill it so you can get, bottles and bottles and bottles of that stuff. And realistically, your book I'm sorry, Sarah, your book's a little out there. We'll probably start putting the world back together within the first 3 to 6 months. It'll all start being put back together. Power will come back on. This isn't, if they shut off your power right now and cut your line to your house, you have the knowledge. You'd figure out how to put power to your house somehow. And I've seen that in third world countries, especially Iraq, when we went to take one city that was about 100 and 150,000 people, and Saddam Hussein had gotten mad at the local government and turned off the power going into that city, a city of 150,000 people in the desert, turned off the power to that city about 10 years before we got there. So it's not like life ended. I'm sure it was very, very hard, but now they had all these generators running. They had some solar stuff going on, and then they had pumping stuff out of the river to do irrigation, hand pumps, and some old school stuff, but then a lot of electrical power with a little bit of, I mean, it wasn't very big back then for any solar, but they were starting to use that, and battery stuff, and then generators. They'd have generators running that would run the pumps for the water, and then people would go plug in things to the generator and people still had cell phones and stuff. Yeah, they still had cell phones. So it was kind of, they get by and you'll figure it out, but it'll take that 3 to 6 months to get all that stuff working again. So you just need to survive on your meds for 3 to 6 months.
Until you can. Yeah.
Until all that stuff, until all that stuff starts to come back online, and then you'll be able to get, in our modern world, we'll get our meds again. Anything short of nuclear, nuclear holocaust.
The big problems in my books come from the loss of land. The land we just don't have as much. So now you have this conflict between people that don't have a place to live anymore, everybody who evacuated California and stuff like that, versus people who are like, hey, this is still my land, get off of it, right?
Yeah, that haves and have nots, that'll always be a problem.
Right? Yeah.
But on the plus side, if 80% of the population is gone, there'll be a lot of vacant houses.
Right, you'll be looking a lot better.
Yeah, so I just think we need to hold on for a little while, and then the world will start putting itself back together. And as long as you have, I just did a podcast on mindset. If you have the mindset that this can happen to me, but I'm just going to keep going and going and going, and I'm going to make this work no matter what. Churchill said it the best: never give up, never give up, never give up. If you just keep going, you'll get through all of this stuff. Yeah. So if you accept that it can happen to you. So I start planning for it, and then when it does happen, one foot in front of the next until we get done. That's
hope it doesn't, but be prepared if it ever does.
Yep, there you go. Yeah, we went way off here from
we did.
Challenging leadership to survival topics and Ben's philosophy on survival here. But hey, I try to do the same stuff, so hopefully I share it with people, motivate. And my whole podcast right now is motivate people to do better in life. So, and I know your podcast is a lot of the same thing. Get out there, be prepared so that the easy stuff is easy, and then if something ever bad happens, you can keep going. And if nothing ever bad happens, you're just like, hey, I got 6 months of food I stored away for the last 30 years. Does it? Yeah. What did it really hurt, And if you look at 30 years over the cost, you're like, but that cost me almost $500 or $1,000 to store that much food, or even $5,000. And you're like, well, over 30 years,
that's like
$5,000
cents a day or something too, exactly. 0.003 or something. Yeah.
Couldn't you drink a coffee a week for what I paid for that stuff? So, in the if nothing ever happens in the scheme of things, you'd just be like, whatever. But sooner or later.
Even in your survival groups, though, because you're going to have a survival group. So you bring together your survival group. You're going to have somebody who's leading it, whether that be a single person, group of people. You're going to have problems between the leadership and the followers at some point, So I just thought it was a good topic to touch on, to be like, okay, how do we handle that? How would you approach that person and be like, hey, well, we have a problem here. If we send these guys out, we're going to lose half our group. What are we doing?
Yeah. And then you can start making better informed decisions. And then, all this stuff, a lot of it is going to, especially in combat too, it happened to us. We made decisions rashly that were because of emotions of what was going on. If you can step back from the emotions and make a rational decision with the information that you're given, it'll make it a lot better.
Sounds like we need some of those more experienced people, so they're thinking logistics and taking care of us instead of just going headstrong into the fire, right?
Yeah, so hopefully if you build your group, you can get some people that are all walks of life. Everybody has worth, and they all will be good at something. And find that thing that they're good at and start using all of that again. And, hopefully that's the way we do it in modern society, but when it breaks down and you get a little group, then that's all you have to you really find out who's good at what. And as a Marine Corps unit, we were the best at this. We were a bunch of reservists that everybody laughed at, but we quickly became up to speed on all the combat stuff that everybody else did. But then we had all these other skills. Right. We get to Baghdad and we're just like, this kind of sucks. There's no electricity. What are we going to do? And this guy goes, oh, I'm a wireman back in the day, I worked for GE. Let's see what I can do. And he's turning power on to buildings for people. Yeah. And it's just, so you find that group in there, and we find the guy that does water, and he could turn water on to different buildings and plumbing. And it was just like, you laugh at him. Oh, you were a stupid plumber back in the real world. Well, dude, do you want to use the toilet? Would you like to take a shower? You're my
Right?
best friend. I want to shower like you would.
I love you.
Yeah, I didn't take a shower for like 2 weeks. So, yeah, I was like, I love you, man. Let me take a shower. But it was great that we could pull on all those resources. And if we have a grid down in the end of the world, if you can feed everybody, take everybody, and then figure out what they can do and put them into a spot where you can use their talents to help out the group, and then you can really survive.
Logistics manager. So my lieutenant general wasn't too far off. He was actually like watching out for everybody, even though he ended up getting socked in the mouth for it.
He put his money where his mouth was.
Right? Alrighty, Ben, let's go ahead and wrap it up. Go ahead and tell my audience where they can find you, because your podcast is slamming good and you got a lot of classes going on and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and keep them updated on what's going on.
All right, you can find everything over at modernselfprotection.com. That's my company, Modern Self Protection, and there we talk about a lot of firearm stuff and self-defense, and then a bunch of mindset stuff. And I try to get into the tactics and tips that you can use to actually make your life better today. I just recorded a podcast on mindset. That's something you can use every day, everywhere you go, all the time. So I don't do the cool jujitsu, just train for this for the next 15 years and you'll never have a problem. I try to do the stuff that you can do right now, today. And that includes a lot of the shooting stuff. If you went to the range, you can take a lot of my tips and start using them today to get yourself better. I do a lot of classes. I think the gun is the great equalizer. The handgun became my thing, and it's just what I've studied for the last 20 years. It's what I'm best at. And so I'm good with the rifle too. I'm okay with the shotgun, but the handgun just became kind of the weapon of choice. So that's where I do a lot of my classes around. So if you need any handgun training, go over there, check out modernselfprotection.com/courses. I'm starting to travel more again this next year. I'm trying to set up a class out there in California. So I just need some more logistical support out there.
All right.
And we'll get that go. I got a couple people I'm trying to run down, and I'm going to talk to Sara after this and try to see if I can get her to help me run some stuff down. I'd like to get out to California behind the Iron Curtain there. I've been to Illinois and taught a class, so I'm getting there,
You're right. Okay.
I try to get all over the country. Go check out the class course. I'm putting more and more courses up all the time.
Sweet. Well, thank you so much, Ben. I really appreciate your time. It's been awesome, as always.
I love talking to you. I have so much fun, and your listeners are awesome.
Thank you. Thank you, Ben, so much for coming on the show. It's been my absolute honor to host you. And, we'll be recording another interview here later in the season, so that's just good timing. And then you're talking about that class in California, so maybe we can get that rolling on, and I get to actually do some training in person, which would be awesome. I also want to give a shout out to my Patreon members. Thank you so much for all you do. If you would like to become a Patreon member, head on over to www.patreon.com/changingearth. We'll just keep this show rolling, keep having fun, keep educating and entertaining. So thank you so much. I can't wait to see you out at the Self-Reliance and Simple Life Experience in Denver, Colorado on the 22nd and the 23rd. Got to get out there, get a book signed, come by and say hi. I'd love to see you. Also want to thank you very much for listening. I value your guys' support so much and all your comments and feedback. It's just so awesome to hear. And I really appreciate you being out there and supporting the show, listening to the show. It's an honor to have the opportunity to educate your minds on how you can be better prepared for whatever life has to throw at you. So until next time, remember, dream, survive, thrive.
Thank you for joining Sara for this episode of the Changing Earth podcast. Don't forget to pick up your copy of Day After Disaster, Without Land, The Walls of Freedom, Battle for the South, and Dark Days in Denver at www.authorSarahFHathaway.com. If you love Sara's books and this podcast, please head over to Amazon or iTunes and let everyone know by leaving a review.